Hello, everyone. Welcome to Agritech Leaders podcast. Please subscribe for more very interesting discussions from the grain industry and from Agritech news. Today we have with us Mr. Alfonso Garrido, who is the CEO of one of the the biggest manufacturers of grain silos in the world, Symaga from Spain. Welcome, Alfonso. How are you?
Good morning, Adrian. Thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah, let's see, how can I help?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting for us to learn first how you end up in this field, how you started this job.
Well, for me personally, it was a kind of heritage, as it was my father who started in the, let's say, grain and farming business. He comes from a very rural area in Spain, in the south of Madrid, around 150 kilometers. And he started growing pigs as a farmer. Then he became a feed seller for one of the biggest American companies, Purina. And then he saw at that time, let's say, middle of the 80s, that there was going to be a big transformation in the way farming was doing. And then he decided he started his own company by selling product for farms. And then in the late 90s, he started to manufacture also grain silos. So for me, I have been dealing with it my whole life. So I also come from this town where my family grew up, and I've been always related to the grain farming and so on. So we can say it's a heritage, a family heritage.
Yeah, you build a great heritage. Given, how should I say, there is a big problem in the market now to find talent for different industries. What would you say to a job seeker today to encourage him or her to join the industry, the grain industry?
Well, I think these days, with all this artificial intelligence and the use of technology, I think the farming or the agriculture in general has been quite apart from all these developments that we have been seeing in many industries. But I think now, since the last, let's say, 5 years, 10 years, there is a lot of investment and a lot of development in technology applied to agriculture, farming, and grain storage. So I think you can combine a kind of a passion for feeding the world and a passion for technology those days. So it's not the image of the agriculture that we have from our parents, let's say, is nothing to do from what we have now. So you can run a tractor from your mobile phone, or you can even, let's say, operate your silo plant from your phone, and it makes the life much more easy.
Yeah, right. It's well, it's a very challenging field, I would say, though very rewarding and beautiful, let's say. And I was wondering, what do you think it was your biggest challenge, and how did you overcome it in this field? You have a extended experience, and you are one of the leaders that could share valuable insights for us.
Mhm. Well, myself personally, I have, I would say, three biggest challenges. One is now. The first one I had to overcome was when I had just finished my university, and I had to run a brand new sales team, which was operating worldwide. Then, like 5 years ago, I had to let's say, took over the position of the CEO of the company, which I wanted to, of course, but it was a big challenge. especially because there are fields that you don't know. When you concentrate on sales or on finance or in logistics, you don't know many things about the company that you think you know in advance.
Yeah.
And now the biggest challenge of the company and myself, I would say, is now because my father passed away 6 months ago, and he was the spirit of the company, the value of the company, someone very respected in the company and outside the company. So one cannot say one try to mirrors, but it's gonna be a big challenge without my father to run the company.
Yeah, I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm
Thank you.
I know you since a long time. I'm very confident that you will overcome this.
Thank you. Thank you, Adrian.
Yeah, in order for our audience to understand better, can you explain what is the role of grain storage in the agri-food supply chain? Because some very few people are thinking about this. Maybe it's a no-brainer, but in my experience, I realized that even though it's quite seems easy, they don't understand exactly what is it that we do.
Well, the storage is mainly to keep the pricing, to regulate the pricing of the grains, basically, and then for the farmers, let's say, to have more freedom when to sell, when not to sell. And then I would say in the industry of the feed or logistics, ports, etc., is a kind of must, is what you need to deal with the grain trade, or what you need to let's say, to keep the price of your feed, if you are a feed miller, stable, or you can give long-term pricing. But I agree with you, it's something not many people involved think about, and it's important. I mean, for example, in a silo, the big silo that we sell now, you are storing a value of 8 to 10 million euros. So the importance of keeping the value or increasing the value is there, is in a silo. So all you have as a farmer or as a company is inside the silo. So it's important to have all the technology applicable to keep the grain safe and to avoid the spoilage. And yeah.
Yeah, so to summarize, we can say that it's essential part of our food supply chain.
Yeah,
Without
especially
it, we will not be able to feed ourselves in a sustainable way for on a long term.
yes, especially in countries which are not grain producers. So, for example, in Spain, we are importing half of our consumption of grains. So, those days with all the climate change, the geopolitical situations, having the storage to feed the people and the animals is a key, is a must.
Yeah, what do you think has changed in the past 10 or 15 years in this industry?
On the storage itself, I would say the warning of the governments about keeping stable prices and keeping a good amount of grains inside the country to avoid a critical situations. So, for example, especially in the importing countries where they have no grains, so like northern part of Africa or the Middle East, the storage of the grain has become a key for the governments because yeah, I mean, if we go back some years ago, the what we call the Arabic Revolution in Tunisia, Egypt, so on. Part of the beginning of these problems were the price of the bread. So when the people has nothing to eat, then the revolution starts, no? So and for
Yeah,
them has been a key for the governance of these countries.
I see. So you were talking earlier. You mentioned something about innovation. I was wondering if there is any important innovation that happened in the industry in the last I don't know years, because uh, sometimes this industry is not so open to adopt innovation, or how do you store grain? It's simple. This that does not change over the years. So uh, is there any innovation that it was important in the past years in the storage industry?
Well, there are. Looks like is a bin and nothing changed, but there
Yes.
are a lot of innovations behind. Of course, it is not a high technology industry where everything changes from day to day. But for example, in the last 10 years, we have changed the specification of steel twice. In the end, a silo is a structure, and you want the structure to have a long life. So in terms of the materials that we use for the construction of the silo, they are improving every day. But also in the structural part, there are one uses more, let's say, higher degree of structural steel to make it cheaper, basically, to make it cheaper, to save assembly time, and so on. And apart from the silo itself, there are a lot of accessories involved in the grain storage, which have been developed in the last years. So, for example, the fumigation
Okay.
have become a very critical point for the industry in general. So, one the needs that our customers demand had made us to develop new accessories to, let's say, to make the fumigation more effective. And also the level of
Okay.
control of the grain itself. So if in the past you just kept the grain inside the silo, today you are measuring temperature, humidity, CO2, etc. So to have a very, very good control of the grain and the quality of the grain stored. So yes, there is
Yeah.
developments. Of course, it's not the fastest industry in the world in developments, but there are.
So the climate change is a big issue, a big topic for all of us now. How do you think it affects it? What kind of impact it has on your industry? Maybe these new materials you are using are also influenced by this.
I think the way the climate change affects is mostly on the necessity of building more grain storage. So if today we have floods, let's say in Brazil, or let's say we have in Brazil, in the US and Canada, the whole world, because the grain is a global market, will be affected. So everyone needs to have a storage to avoid these uncertainties. But not in terms of the silo itself. I think on the terms of the silo itself doesn't affect much.
Yeah, I think we are in the middle of a lot of crisis, all type of crisis, of commodities, of political, geopolitical, and so on. What would you think is the biggest challenge for facing the grain industry today? So overall, the industry. What do you
Well, I
think?
think the biggest globally is to build the infrastructure for the grain trading, because there is a need there, and there is and then to feed the expected population of 9 to 10 billion people in the world. So with limited arable land, I think the arable land is reaching, let's say, the limits.
Yeah,
Of course, there are some parts in Russia still to be developed, but on the other hand, some arable land that was subject to cultivation in the past, those days can no longer be cultivated. We see this on the south of Spain. I mean, For example, if in the past we had let's say an average crop, these days we are having half of these crops. So in the end, it is easier and cheaper to import.
Yeah. But we are also facing a geopolitical turmoil all over the world. Many conflicts or possible conflicts, economic conflicts. How do you think all these things are affecting the dynamics in grain storage industry? Is there an effect that you can feel?
Basically increasing the demand for grain storage. So for example, if we stick to Israel, for example, we surrounded, but let's say non-friendly neighbors to them, no? They need to import everything from outside in terms of grains. They are building 3 terminals now in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's not only Israel, it's Egypt continues with his building grain storage all over the country to feed 100 million population, which is increasingly every day. So we see, for example, in Bangladesh as well, huge government plans financed by the World Bank to satisfy the demand of the people. Yeah, this is, I'd say, the biggest challenge.
Yeah. So you are in the positive spectrum.
In the next 10 to 20 years, yes. But where I see, let's say in 30, 40 years, looks like the population will drop. So how we will, so there will be, I guess, less necessity of grain storage. So, and this is, I think, the challenge in the long term that we all grain storage suppliers need to think about. And I think there will be a concentration of suppliers in the end, which is
Yeah.
already happening, but not for this reason. I think for other reasons.
So throughout the history of uh, agricultural humans, um, I would say we always used some kind of a form of silos to store the grains. But thinking now to the future, if um, if in 20, 50, 100 years, would you can you imagine a different way to solve this problem other than just uh, beans, the problem that humanity has, I mean, to store the food, the raw materials for food?
Well, yeah, as you said, from the beginning of the civilization, the capacity of the human beings for storing grains, thinking on the long term, has been there. So since the Sumerians in the Middle East up to now. And of course, there have been developments. Even I think the steel silos started only 40, let's say 30 to 40 years ago. Previously, all were cement. So I think basically is a rational thinking. If there is another way and less cost effective to store grains, the change will happen. I think today the assembly is becoming maybe more than half of the cost of building a silo. So I think all the grain storage industry, we have a challenge in reducing this cost of the assembly. When we see today, for example, building houses with a printer, with a 3D printer,
Yeah.
I think something like this can happen on the silo, because basically building a silo is easier than building a house. So I think some of those changes, I don't see it now, but I think they can happen because the cost of the labor is increasing, and then let's say the budget for the storage from our customers increase as well. So I think that kind of changes can happen, especially on the assembly. I think the way of making a silo today and the steel, let's say, is a cheap commodity still those days. So I think in the assembly is where more changes may happen.
This will probably imply also a shift from the traditional steel silo beams to a different material. Would you think?
I don't think, in my best guess is not in the material, but it may happen and everything involved in the material. So, well, in the material is already happening. So if you look back 10 years ago, the amount of steel you needed to make a silo was much more than what you need today. So it's a steel, in the end it's a steel, but it's a different steel. So it's more economic in the end,
Yeah,
as long as it has higher structural degree.
yeah. We are living as we
I
speak
don't
in.
see any change, let's say, from the steel to other material. There's fiberglass today, but the steel is very expensive for storing grains, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So I was saying that we are living in as we speak, in one of the biggest revolution in human evolution, which is AI revolution. Do you see any applications of this technology in the grain industry? And maybe you are using already in different parts of your business. Can you give us examples?
Well, not in Symaga. In Symaga, we have the first section of artificial intelligence this Friday. So
Hmm.
let us see how it develops. Of course, there will be changes. I mean, maybe not on the silo itself, but on the way we deal with our everyday business. Maybe for making a quotation, we no longer need a big database, and the artificial intelligence can do this for us. Or maybe in the way of manufacturing, in the last years, we have invested, I would say, 8 to 10 million in our plants for automation and so on, without artificial intelligence. But I think the level of automation we have reached today can even be improved by using artificial intelligence and managing the stocks, all this. I would say in our case, the artificial intelligence will help more in the internal processes. On
Okay.
farming, I would say the connectivity of from the tractor to the silo itself, and then the way you store it. I think that the connectivity of all these different inputs or datas in there is a way of applicability and improvement.
I see. It's now in the agri-tech sphere, there are a lot of new startups, very innovative, and I was wondering, what advice would you give to them? Where should they innovate more? Or it's interesting to hear your insight.
Basically, I would say in making the life of the farmer easier, because it's a hard life in the end, and I think by making the life of the farmer easier is where they need to think. For example, today we see tractors already running by themselves, no?
Yeah,
But we don't see tractors unloading and filling the silo and all that, no? So I think the combination of the harvesting part and the grain storage is, in my opinion, where they should work.
yeah, I think this what you just said, this type of complete automation, it is possible. The technology is out there, but it is true, it is still too expensive for a average farm, let's say. So
expensive,
we need,
and there is, so for example, you see in Spain, which we need to mostly irrigate most of the farm. You see great applications in when to irrigate, the automation of the irrigation, etc. But it's not, it works by itself, no? And then you see the application of the tractor, it works by itself. I think what we need is a combination of all of this for the farmers.
yeah, you need to integrate
Exactly. That's the word I was looking for.
the running of all these uh, machines
Yeah.
and to gather comprehensive data and to make sense out of them in one core point, you know, where all the information will gather, not to have
Exactly.
25 reports for 25 different type of machines and irrigation and so on. So yeah, interesting. Is your company investing in research and development, or do you prefer to acquire from the market?
Well, both. We from the very beginning we are working with our suppliers on innovation, on the machinery, and also on the materials that we use for the construction of the silos. So I think for Symaga this has been one of the key points of the success, working with the suppliers on development. And then Symaga by itself, we invest from 3 to 4 million every year in either machines or programs or software. Now we hope with the artificial intelligence, we still need to see the applicability. But yeah, I mean, this has also been one of the points of success of Symaga, the investment in research and development. I think today we can say we have one of the most automatic factories for silo in the world.
Yeah, since we are in an agri-tech space here, on which technology you would bet that will make a good career in the industry in the next decade? What kind of software or type of technology you think will be widely adopted in the grain industry?
To be honest, I have no answer for for this.
Yeah.
But I think the artificial intelligence will help a lot, from the farmer to the storage itself. How? I don't know. I'm not an expert on technology, but I have seen, for example, the applicability of the artificial intelligence in the ice cream business. I was given an example, and it's simply amazing. I mean, they can calculate the demand and therefore the labor they will need. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
To be honest, today I don't see that much improvement on the grain industry, but for sure there is. For sure there is.
Okay. Ice cream makes me happy, so I will have to settle with ice cream. It's okay. But let's turn the question around. So, what kind of technology you will not bet on that in the longer term will stick with the grain industry? Maybe it's already here, or it was I don't know. It started some years ago. What do you think it will not work for the long term?
I think whatever requires a lot of labor. Uh, yeah, you see today, for example, well, I think, for example, one of the reasons the harvesters were invented was because of the lack of labor.
Yeah.
If today we are struggling to find people to go in a tractor and, let's say, harvest and do the plantations or whatever, I think a definitive change will happen there as well. So whatever is related to intensive use of labor is part from the past.
I see. Well, You are a very experienced CEO, and you have been working for your company for a long time already. So, how would you characterize your management style? What kind of manager are you?
I would say you would better ask my colleagues to give you an answer. But basically, what I try to do is to solve their problems. That's all. I think we all make mistakes. We sometimes are bad oriented, and basically, what I try to do is to help and to teach from my experience.
If you would be able to travel back in time, um, and be able to change something, what would that thing be for your company or for a customer, or would be interesting?
I started very young, so I think I made mistakes of being young, basically. So, but there are certain things, as I told my colleagues, we have a very young team, and there are things that you can only learn by doing. No matter if the managers say it 100 times, until it happened to you and you realize about this, you will not do it differently in the next time. So sometimes I'm happy that my colleagues, so let's say, lose one project by selling it,
Mhm.
because they will learn from losing. If you always win, you will not learn. So what once it is lost, we can say what should we have done, no?
Yes.
So basically, teaching I think teaching and training was very key. In 2021, I started an internal program in the company for training, and since that time, we are doing it every year. Training not only about the product but also about other skills that you need for coping with the daily business.
So you are coming from a great legacy. What kind of legacy you want to leave behind, and what would you say to the future generations if you have the opportunity to talk to them now?
To make it brief, especially the values. I mean, the values are forever. And if we go back to the beginning of the civilizations, keeping certain values are big part of the success. So in this world today, where many times only the number matters, I think the values are something we are forgetting. Today, some companies try to establish themselves, but when they come from up to down, it's very difficult to implement. The values are basically a thing you have to deal with every day, and
Yeah,
not let yourself going crazy for winning a job or a project or whatever.
yeah,
Um,
sounds really amazing, and I fully agree with that. Um, Leading your life based on your core values will always get you further than just following only temporary opportunities and switch from left to right and so on. This might not get you very far.
exactly.
Yeah. So we have an interesting chapter in our podcast when our guest today can ask a difficult question for the next guest or to our audience. So if you have in mind this kind of tricky or difficult question to ask the next guest, you don't know who he is or she, or to the audience, will be very interesting for us. What do you say?
Yeah, I would say the one my worry that I have and that I already mentioned. What will happen after 30, 40 years when the world population starts to drop? Because today all the growth is based on the consumption, basically, of course, on the technology as well. But what will happen when we will have, let's say, 2,000 million people less in the world?
Yeah.
With a very high technology, and this is especially related to the food industry. So you see all the food companies today investing because from the very beginning the population has been growing. But I think we haven't faced a challenge that the population is decreasing, and I think this is the worry I have in my head. So I would like to hear other people what they think about it.
Yeah, this is a very important question, absolutely. Especially that, like you said, basically our society model is based on the growth model, which is based on the population growth as well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it might collapse. So it's a great question. I hope people can comment on it. I will do my best to bring the best specialist to also answer to this question on one of our next podcasts.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you very much, Alfonso. It was great having you here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching AgriTech Leaders podcast. Please subscribe and see you soon with a great conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Thank you, and thank you for the interview.